Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of His Dark Materials. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's talk about Marissa or Miss Coulter's side of things this episode. That kind of took me by surprise. I was like, oh, where did she go? Because I figured she'd try and track down Lyra, but going to the land of the dead, even with the intention craft, I'm like, I don't know if you would be able to make that happen. And it seems like she wasn't, because, well, for one, you wouldn't, I'm assuming it is based on your intention. So even if you're like, oh, I want to go to Lyra, that probably wouldn't be enough. You probably have to know specifically what world she's in for that to be possible, or at least, I don't know how that works. You probably need someone to kind of lead you on to some idea of where to begin looking. But she ended up back in their world, and she went to the Magisterium. I was like, oh, destroying them from the inside out. It's like, right, and I guess that's why Azrael gave her kind of that nod at the end of the last episode. It's like, oh, because he knew what she had intended. And that's what that line where he was like, yeah, basically they'll need, he made some reference to Gunwy saying like, right, I feel almost like, oh, I feel bad for them. Like whatever hell she's about to rain down upon them. And I was like, oh, is that in reference to the Magisterium in her attempt to like protect Lyra or something like that? Like anyone that gets in her way. And it kind of seems like that's the case, but I wasn't expecting her to straight up go back to the Magisterium and it's like, hey, here I am. I brought myself here voluntarily. And I do love that little back and forth her and Gomez has where she's like, oh, wow, I hope we're good after the last whole situation. You were super talkative last time, but now you're all quiet. I guess like all that stuff you got from Cardinal McPhail. No, it's President Father McPhail. And she's almost like, wait, what? It's like, yes. And my words were my own. And she's like, yeah, because he was talking about like, right, you have no faith. She's like, yeah, the faith of this institution or whatever. Like she put it around quotes because it's like, well, she now knows it's all BS, but it's also like, right, McPhail isn't going by faith. He's being driven by ambition, you know. That's what Marissa took advantage of when she had him, you know, when it came to the Cardinal's death. It's like, yeah, she took advantage of what was already there, bubbling, seething beneath the surface. So she ends up convincing McPhail, like, hey, I'm here. Hey, that knife, you don't have to worry about it. I destroyed it, obviously. I don't even know it crossed her mind to think that the knife might get repaired. Maybe, for one, it keeps them off of Lyra's back for a while. So if they think they don't have anything to worry about from the knife, then it's fine. But it's like, yeah, Azrael, he's declaring his war on the authority. And this particular knife, it could kill the authority, but I destroyed it. So I am of use to you. Use me to kind of make this all happen. Obviously, it's like, think of all that we've done together. Because he even has her kissing the ring, and I think it speaks volumes that his hand is shaking in that moment. And she kisses it, but then grabs his hand and is like, remember what we've done together. It's referencing like the Cardinal. And she kisses the ring again. So it's like, hey, I'm here. I'm at your disposal. Let me help you in this fight. It's like, right, because you also screwed up everything I was doing. The fact is, and she, you know, it's like, right, you're talking about the sin that Eve will commit, but it's like, Eve wasn't just some sinful person from the very beginning. She was what? Tempted by the serpent, and that's when she fell. That's what was her motive. That was Marissa's entire motivation last season, you know, when she found out about everything. It's like, right, Eve, she must not fall. I won't let my daughter fall, you know, if she is to be Eve. So it's like, right, I had her away from everything, kept her away from the danger of what she could have been. But you and everyone, you ended up destroying all of that. And now, you know, you sent her down this path. You inadvertently may have sent her down the path to become Eve. I was doing everything to prevent her from that. But for McPhail, it's like, it's regardless. It's like, she has to die regardless because I can't take the chance that, like, her very existence will lead to sin. It's like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just, that's who she's destined to be. Not that things can be changed. Things could be different. You can learn from history and maybe not make the same mistake. But he probably doesn't even believe, like, oh, you can stop her. It's like, her, in his mind, even though Marissa is kind of right, it's like, right, Eve only failed or fell after she ate the apple because of the serpent tempting her. So it does beg the question I mean, if anyone was going to be the serpent right now, it seems like it would be Roger, or at least something pretending to be Roger, drawing her in. And now we also, this entire, I didn't even think about it too, like the dream she had last episode, like the beginning, it's like now we get the full context of that, but I'll talk about that when we get to Will and Lyra's side of things. But either way, it turns out the reason why they were able to find Marissa is because they knew where to look because of her mother. Because it's like, yeah, the spy fly is like, yeah, it can find you, but you'd have to search around, but it's like, you would have to still be relatively enough in that area to, like, you'd have to know where to even look in the first place. Because I think by that point, when Lyra was with Egyptians in season 1, I think Coulter already knew to some extent that she might, so she knew where to look. But it's like, right, how did they find her, like, out on her own? Like, it's like, how would you even know to look here? Turns out her mother sold her out, which I'm like, interesting, because we haven't really dived into any of Lyra's grandparents. I'm like, that's something I'm curious, like, did the books ever cover, and that's just something they cut out from the show, just because it, like, you know, they didn't have time to include that too. It would have just been too much, or was that a choice, or is that being very close to the books, where, like, the books didn't tackle her grandparents at all? But it's like Marissa's mother sold her out, and she's like, well, of course she did. And I was like, I wonder, I guess that's a sad thing of, like, Lyra and her have issues, and it seems like Coulter has issues with her mom. I wonder if it's because her mom is such a faithful person, like, to the Magisterium. It makes me wonder, almost, like, especially after everything that went down with Azriel and her own husband, like, I wonder, did her mom, like, really, like, push the Magisterium on her? Because, like, maybe that's why, like, I don't know, her mom could be the reason why she's a lot of who she is. I don't know. I don't know if we're really getting anything more than what we got in this episode on it, but I thought that was so fascinating. She was sold out by her own mom and what that all means. Because it's probably a thing of, like, all right, like, bring my daughter back to the light, bring her back to the right side of things. I don't know. I mean, because we really don't see people being, like, overly, like, except for the people that are part of the Magisterium in this series, we've never really seen the casual person being extremely religious. It's just more so the rest of the world living in fear of the Magisterium, rather, you know, like, they're ruling like a dictatorship rather than, like, the holy men and people that they're supposed to be. So I don't know, just say that's interesting. Because that's why I was wondering, like, maybe she's just such a devout person, but I feel like I said, we don't really get that too much in this series. But either way, Roke reveals himself, because I actually forgot about that last episode, that he hid himself before the intention shift craft ended up taking off, and he's there to actually help her, because he's like, yeah, this is all Father Gomez constantly goes to one particular room. And I love, like, Coulter just doing her thing, like, oh, like, I'd rather pray in the chapel. It's like, right, you have to go at a predetermined time. It's like, really? Damn, really? Oh, that's such a shame. Oh, I guess I'll take this time to look around. It's like, oh, opens this door. Oh, that looks boring. Her monkey points her to another one, and she opens. And the other guy's like, if you don't stop, and she's like, what will you do? And he's like, I will have to go get support. And she's like, good. Kind of pats him on the side of his arm. We all need support. I was like, I love how condescending and patronizing she sounds like in that moment. But to be fair, it's like, yeah, she's giving it probably most likely as much as she's gotten, because this is the organization of patronizing her, especially as a woman. I'm gonna go ahead and jump ahead. What was that line from McPhail, that she was oh my God, he said something emotional woman. He might as well have just basically said, woman, you're acting like a hysterical woman. It's like, I was like, yo, it was pretty much that, when he was saying, like, oh, you're nothing more than something emotional woman. He was basically calling her a hysterical woman. And I'm like, wow, you went there. But I'm like, should I be too surprised? It's like, right, that is what this world is, sadly, because of, it's like a very, like, old-fashioned approach to things. I mean, that's why she's, like, the only, like, woman that had any standing in the Magisterium. She had to kind of bend over backwards just to get there and do that, simply because that's just how things operate in this world. Either way, She runs into her good old pal, Dr. Cooper, and is like, oh, you're still alive. Honestly, I thought you were dead. I didn't really pay as much attention to it last episode. I definitely noticed it this episode. She has scars on her face. I'm assuming it's from, like, the explosion of the machine and just, like, the damage that was caused by that. Not unless it was when the Egyptians and the witches were... It seemed like that was more so probably, like, scars from, like, an explosion or something. But Miss Coulter ends up getting a look at the weapon that the Magisterium is having built. And I was like, oh, that looks like a bomb. Turns out it is a bomb. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, I guess you're going for like the mass, like, boom. But I'm like, I was wondering how that would work. At least that's what she's implying that it is. But maybe it operates a little differently. Maybe it looks like a bomb or whatever. But then it's kind of like, oh, how was it aimed? And Dr. Cooper was like, oh yeah, it's by the will of basically like, oh, the almighty, the authority aims it. And it's like, yeah, we both know that's kind of BS. It's kind of what Miss Coulter was saying. So ultimately we find out how it does aim. It's basically based off of, every person has a unique signature. And basically they take Lyra's hair and they're planting that into the weapon so that no matter where she is across the multiverse, this device will lock onto her and then kill her. And it is, once again, it's taking the principle of what Azrael did to tear open a hole in the sky, kind of taking the whole project that Dr. Cooper and Miss Coulter were a part of and utilizing it in this and weaponizing it in this regard. Once again, I brought it up last episode, a parallel of how Azrael killed that angel. Which Coulter did bring that up to McPhail. Was like, oh yeah, I think he killed an angel. It's like, you're talking like, oh, I think he killed an angel in front of me. It's like, you were there. He clearly killed an angel in front of you. It's like, oh, but what kind of monster is Azrael to be able to do that, such a majestic creature or whatever? It's like, well, they did kill an ally of his, plus he's trying to aim to kill an angel regardless, because that's what the authority actually is. Which, she could have brought that up, but it's like, no, it's just going to make her look like a heretic, and besides, she's trying to get on their good side when it comes to all of this. Also, really quickly, had that ever come up before that Marissa kept pieces of Lyra's hair? I wonder when did she get that? I wonder, was it between season 2 and 3? Which we do finally have we don't know a definitive number. I figured as much because like they are both older, but Will referenced it this episode that it's been months since season 2's finale. So I figure it wouldn't just be like days or weeks, but it's been like months of him tracking her down. So I'm curious, is that something she took from Lyra while Lyra was asleep, or was it from the first time like Lyra like stayed with her back in London in season 1? I don't remember. I don't know. I mean, cause we don't know. Well, because Lyra was still a baby at the time. So, and season 1 was the like running into her like. In episode 1 of the series was kind of like the first time they got, I think they were together since she was born, maybe. It doesn't seem like Marissa ever came to her, like was interacted with her in that, like, 12 years she was at Jordan College, so. So that's why I'm assuming, like, I would assume it had to be either, because those are the only 2 times she would have been able to do it, back in London in season 1, or, like, while Lyra was kind of in and out, like, kind of that deep enchanted sleep between season 2 and now. Well, until a couple episodes ago. You know, so. Either way, I just, because having rewatched season 1 and 2 recently, I was like, yeah, I don't remember that ever coming up, so I guess that was just kind of, I guess they knew that she must have kept some kind of keepsake of Lyra's. They just needed something, I guess, of Lyra's to kind of hang on to. Maybe they knew it was a follicle of hair, whatever the case may be. I just thought about that. That must be a very classic thing, because I was like, something else did that recently, and it was the English. I'll just leave it at that. I don't. One of the main characters, Cornelia, she kept a locket of her son's hair in a pendant. So and it kind of brought her power. And I think for culture, it was kind of a similar thing where it's like, right, this is the only piece of my daughter. Like, if I can't have her around me, I can at least have this, almost like she's always with me. And sadly, she had to destroy that piece of hair because it's like, I guess Cooper, it wasn't killed because her demon didn't disappear. So I guess, I mean, because we know he knocks people out. Roke knocks people, well, they knock people out with their weapons, and maybe it's just like, right, you draw too much attention if you kill Dr. Cooper. I mean, like I said, they didn't show her demon disappearing, so I'm assuming she's just incapacitated for a couple hours. But Marissa knew, like, yeah, if I leave now, they're gonna find another way to come after Lyra. But I do think it is sad irony. That the tragic irony, in fact, that in an attempt to save her daughter's life, she basically supplied them with the ammunition they needed to kill her daughter. So Roke is like, right, we need to go back to Azrael's side. He will do something about it. And she's like, will he? And he's like, yes, he will. But it's like, even Roke's unsure about what Azrael will do given the circumstances. Like, right, that she's never been much of she's never taken up a lot of his mind much in the past, so it's like, why would now be any different, especially with his looming war coming? He has even more reason. He has even more he'll justify it even more so to kind of not focus on Lyra at all. So she planned. I wonder what her plan was going to be, because I was wondering if she was going to like try and put like her own like hair into it and then like sacrifice herself, but basically like, because once again, is it going to just be a bullet or will it be a bomb? I guess it's just going to be a focused shot, or is the device going to go where Lyra is and then blow up or something like that? That's why I'm like, I'm not 100% sure like how it's going to operate, because she at the very least was like, oh, it's a bomb, and it's like, maybe it just appeared to be a bomb. I don't know. But that's why I was thinking, if it was a bomb, then Marissa would put her own hair in and activate the device and then basically blow up the Magisterium, killing everyone in it, just to make sure there's no one left to go after her daughter. Especially because she was like, right, I want destruction. But she was going to the intention craft, and I was like, I wonder where she was going to go when that was all said and done. But sadly ended up getting captured in the end. And they still have enough hair samples of Lyra's, because I guess like they kept the I don't know if she got the locket back or not, but they didn't use all the hair samples. They kept some of them. So they're also still not aware of Roke. So they're like, oh, I don't know how you were able to. They still don't know about Roke. He's pretty. I was kind of scared multiple times throughout the episodes. Like, are they going to find out about him? It's like, no, they didn't. So, but being cornered like she is and knowing like, right, you're never going to stop. It's like, fine, I want to be put on trial, and I want to admit that I killed the previous cardinal, and that your your president father helped me do it. He was like, oh, blasphemy. And for her, she's looking around to all of them. It's like, right, you see this man isn't like, it basically saying you follow the authority, right? Or is it this power that you follow? That this man isn't like someone acting upon the authority's will. He's acting upon his own greed and ambitions for power. And that's when he proceeded to call her essentially an hysterical woman. This is like, oh, this is not becoming of you, blah, 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 right? So now it's like, right, we are going to use this machine, and you, Marissa, not only did you bring us what we needed to load the gun, you yourself will actually be the bullet. I guess she's more so like, Lyra's hair's the bullet, and it's the targeting system, and herself will be the bullet, you know. I was about to say, like, the hair could be the bullet, and she could be, like, the firing pin or something like that. But it's like, or like, you know, but it's like, no, like, it's more like targeting system and the actual bullet itself. So it's like, right, you will be your own daughter's death. So, but she had tried to reach out to Father Gomez, and I can't, look at the end. Like, he is someone that is, like, so, you know, he believes all of this. He has faith, as she says. But Marissa had talked about it beforehand, like, at the beginning of the episode. Like, right, you're still so young that basically you can wholeheartedly believe in all of this. You haven't seen, like, this world hasn't, like, you haven't seen the jadedness of it all. You haven't seen the true nature of Father McPhail, that this whole magisterium isn't without its fault. It's like, right, this man you're following is talking about stopping sin. He's committed sin after sin, but no one's listening. But I think it might have reached Father Gomez. We'll have to wait and see. He isn't like jumping to be on her side, but her words might have like swayed him to kind of see the cardinal for who he really is, or the president father. We'll ultimately have to wait to see where things kind of go on that front. Once again, Roque is still out there, so it's not like Marissa's completely alone. And now moving on to the side of things with Lyra, Will, and Pan in the land of the dead. They're trying to make their way through. And throughout it all, Pan just kept being like, maybe we don't need to do this. Maybe we should go back. He's very fearful, but Lyra's just kind of like, no, we have to keep pushing forward. And it's like, to me, I honestly, by the end of that whole situation, I'm still unclear and I'm not sure if Lyra is actually doing the right thing. And even she says, like, she doesn't know. She hopes that it's the right thing, but because for her, it's like, right, I need to say goodbye to Roger. I need to apologize. She's also kind of bringing it up like, well, Will has people he wants to say goodbye to. Or, obviously his time with his father was very cut short. But it's more so like, right, are you really trying to help Roger? I mean, the dreams kind of imply he's in danger, or is it just more so your guilty conscience because you believe you were at fault? It's like the fault lies on your father's father, not on you. He's the one who did what he did. That shouldn't fall on you, but, for her, she feels like it does, and maybe it is that thing of you want to apologize. Are you really apologizing for that person's sake, or are you kind of asking for their forgiveness? I mean, it's a complicated thing. Like, I think she has the best of intentions in her heart, but it's like, right, is it fully altruistic reasons why you're going? It's like, no, she wants to apologize, but it's like, I don't know. I feel complicated about it because I just don't know if it is the right thing. There's moments throughout this episode I'm like, I don't think this is the right thing to do, when both Pan and Will are constantly like, are we sure we should be doing this? Is this the right thing to do? Because they end up finding out the only way to get to where Roger is, the land of the dead, because there's a whole bunch of waiting rooms. Basically, they talk to these two people, and it turns out the fact is they're like, right, it's not our time yet, but part of me wonders like, wait, are you guys, they didn't really go into it, but I'm like, are you guys like on your deathbeds? Like maybe they're like whatever world they're from, they're there like slowly dying because they're sick. Like maybe that's why they're like, our deaths haven't come for us yet. But it's interesting to know like, right, everyone has their individual death, across whatever world you're from. Everyone has their individual death. And it's with you the moment you come into this world, and it's there. Your personal death is what takes you out. It kind of offers you a hand. So it kind of reminds me a little bit like, oh God, what was that show? It wasn't Reapers, was it? I don't remember. Oh God, it was a show about. Well, there's been two shows I'm thinking of. I'm just probably confusing one show with the other because the main character, I forgot the show's name, and it's going to bother me because her name is George. Dead Like Me. Oh, good thing. Because I know there's a show called Reaper, but it would kind of had a similar premise, but not really. That was a whole other thing. But this one, I was like, but the show I'm thinking of is Dead Like Me. That was kind of like the premise behind that show. They were reapers, and it was kind of their duty to kind of like, send people off and stuff. So it's kind of an interesting kind of like parallel in this regard of, yeah, your reapers with you your entire life, your death's with you your entire life, and they're the ones that kind of basically put your life to an end when it's your time. So I thought, and they even said like, oh, there is something kind of beautiful about it, because it's like, right, you can't see them until it's your time, and you can only see your reaper, but it is this beautiful thing of like, there's this invisible person with you. They've been your companion your entire life. They've been by your side your entire life, will be by your side your entire life. They were there when you came into the world, and they'll be there when you exit the world. There's a beauty to it, because especially when, the whole thing of like, right, you die alone, knowing you kind of don't die alone, that there's a helping hand, there's someone there. I mean, a reaper in general, that's their whole shtick, no matter what circumstances, whatever you're really pulling from. But in this continuity be like, no, the Reaper is your personal Reaper. It adds that personal touch to it. It's like, it makes it even more so like, hey, here's a friendly, someone who is a friend. Hey, I've been here by your side. You might not even been aware, but we've been through this together, this roller coaster called life. And I'm here to venture you on to your next adventure in the afterlife. So, and Lyra is intent on finding her Reaper, and she does. Well, I keep saying Reaper, her death. And obviously her death tells her, like, if you do this, I can take you up to a certain extent, but you would have to find your own way back. But for Lyra, it's like, right, I owe this to Roger. He's in trouble, and I need to tell him I'm sorry for what I did. I never even got to say goodbye to him. It's kind of a point she's making to her death, as well as a point to Will. And it's just like, I mean, at multiple times, Lyra could have turned back, but she refused to. And when they actually go to the ferryman, he says that Lyra and Will can come on board, but not Pan. But it's like, no, we don't go anywhere together. Right? If we separate, I'll die. And it's like, that's the point. But Will's like, I'm not leaving anything behind. It's like, yeah, you are. You might not be able to see it. The unfortunate nature is because of Lyra, the world she comes from, their souls manifest as demons. Like, your soul is your companion. You get to know them. At least in Will's case, fortunately or unfortunately, depending on how you want to look at it, when he crosses that side of things, when he crosses the river, he will lose something. Just the difference is it won't be something he could physically see. It might be something he feels that in the aftermath he'll be a little off, but at least in Lyra's case, she'll physically be seeing that side of herself being torn away from her. So, and Pan's begging her over and over again to do that, like, let's go back. But Lyra's like, I have to do this. And hearing Pan fight back, because she had said, like, before, like, right, I thought you were on my side. He's like, no, I thought I was by your side. It's like, it's more so like we're supposed to be standing side by side, but it's more so like, no, you want me to follow you, rather than like us kind of going at this together. It feels like I'm supposed to just agree and follow you. It's kind of like what he was kind of pushing back on. And it's like, right, you're choosing, like, Roger and Sal are gone. They're dead, but I'm still here and you're leaving me behind. It's like, because even Will's like, hey, if like she comes back, it's like, well, no one's ever come back. And it's like, even if she does, like, who's to say that connection could ever be repaired? Like, I didn't know if this is going to be a thing of like, will Pan die when they pull up? It's like, no, he'll just be alone. And that's the sad thing of they've been by each other's side just as long as like, just much like her death, because her death was like, right, who knows you better than anyone? And as I know you better than anyone else. And then like Pam was like, not anyone, like took offense to like the, her death saying that, because it's like, right, you're not the only one that's been by her side. I know her better than anyone else. I know her better than you, And now it's like, right, now it's like, you're asking me to you're choosing Roger over me. I'm still here. Don't leave me behind, because you leaving me behind means you're leaving me alone. What am I supposed to do with? And she's just wait. She's like, I love you. And Pan's just like, just go, And he's just like, because I thought multiple times, I'm like, is Will just going to take the boat by himself and leave Lyra there so she doesn't have to make that choice? But it's like, right, he doesn't know what Roger looks like. This is something, and besides, it's something Lyra needs to do. And like, he doesn't want to get in the way of that. And it's such a tough situation. That's why I'm like, I'm so conflicted, because like, I get why she's doing it, but I'm also like, are you really doing it all 100% for the right reasons? I mean, this might be the thing that sends you over the edge. You're leaving behind Pan, and might not even really be Roger waiting for you on the other end. Someone just manipulating you for what purposes? I don't know. I mean, while all this is happening, while the Magisterium is gearing up to actually kill you, so I'm sure there's going to be some overlap of probably just when they're done with whatever they end up doing in the Land of the Dead. However that whole thing plays out, just when she's about to leave and they're trying to find their way out, that's probably when she's going to get struck by the weapon and potentially ends up killing her. We'll see. I don't know. I thought it was interesting, too, that Will tried to threaten the ferryman with the soda knife. He's like, right, there's been plenty of people that threaten me who've been scared to face this, and you think there's anything that could actually hurt me? It's like, it is this subtle knife. It can cut through anything. Obviously, it can kill angels. It's meant to kill the Almighty, so you'd assume, like, it can probably kill anything related to death. If he could, it probably could kill a death. It could probably kill the ferryman. I mean, Will just never use it on him, because it's like, I don't want to use it on you. I'm not trying to threaten you, but I just want Pan to come along. Like, Lyra shouldn't have to do this. Like, they've been through this. They've been through so many adventures together for so long, and now she has to leave him behind. And as they're pulling further and further away, like her heart is like not just figuratively, it's literally breaking because like they're stretching the bounds of like, because we've never fully seen what happens when someone is super far away from their demons, and I guess that's what happens. It keeps stretching and stretching until the band finally, I guess, snaps. Using a rubber band as kind of the metaphor in this regard, representing their bond. So we'll have to wait and see where things kind of go on that front. And then finally, there's a little bit more with Mary. It seems like, both of these conversations could happen. Before I finish up fully, that's what I was talking about early in the review when I was saying like, oh, like that dream that Lyra had, there was Pan at the, like the dream was kind of telling her what was going to happen. It's like, right, it's been staring us in the face the entire time. And it's like, right, sadly, it ended up playing out just like that. But the other point I was going to make too is where Mary is that place, the main place, you know, that's in the opening. Cause you know, in the second season, it was, City Gaza was kind of like the main place. And then you zoom out and then you see like the other worlds. Well, the main world they kind of focus on and pull out from and then show you all the other worlds. I mean, obviously, it's like you see the multitude of different ones. I mean, obviously, the opening also shows you what I'm assuming is supposed to be Lyra and Will in the land of the dead. But that world seems to be one of the worlds they showed is the one that kind of savannah-looking place, like almost like a savannah in like Africa. I guess like the safari, I guess would kind of be a more apt description maybe than the savannah. I don't know. I think savannah might be like the right word to use in that regard, but description. But that place seems like that's where Mary is. So it seems like that's the focal point, which I'm like, right, where is that world? And why does it seem like that's the important world? Because at first I was like, could that be like the Garden of Eden or something like that? It wasn't until Mary was there I was like, oh, these are the same places. Like, could it be the garden? I don't know. The old garden to some extent. But there's also this creature that came to her, like, told her to kind of eat the fruit or whatever, and the drink what was in the bowl, and then like, hey, let's go. And she's following it, so that's all we got in that regard. So don't know where that's going or what to really kind of expect from that either. So it's probably going to be one of those things like once you put all the Mary stuff, like if you like connect all the scenes, it'll probably make more sense. But since we're getting like a little bit here, a little bit there, yeah, like every episode, we got a little bit in episode 2, a little bit in episode 3, now a little bit in episode 4. So that's definitely going to be interesting to find out where that goes. But interesting to see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.